She paid for first class. They told her she didn't belong. What happened next cost the airline everything. Ma'am, I'm gonna need to see your ticket again. Danielle looked up, lips parted mid-sentence. She had just been texting her assistant to confirm her hotel check-in in San Jose when the gate agent's voice cut through her thoughts. It wasn't what he said, it was how he said it. Flat, clipped, like he'd already decided she didn't belong there. Like her presence in the first-class line had caused a disturbance. Without missing a beat, Danielle gave a polite smile and held out the pass. Sure, here you go. The man glanced at it for a half-second too long. And your ID? She raised an eyebrow, but reached into her tote. Of course. While he examined both documents, Danielle took in her surroundings. It was early afternoon at Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport, and the first-class line was nearly empty. Just a businesswoman ahead of her and a man in cargo shorts behind, balancing a coffee in one hand and a tablet in the other. Everything had been smooth up to now. TSA pre-check, no checked bags. Her assistant had done a great job making sure she had a window seat for some quiet time before tomorrow's pitch. Danielle Sharp didn't usually get nervous before meetings, especially not with venture capitalists she'd worked with before. But this one mattered. A new partnership with a sustainable tech firm could push her company into global markets. Still holding her ID and boarding pass, the agent gave her a once-over. Danielle was used to the look, not the flirty kind, the measuring kind. You sure you're in the right line, ma'am? He asked. Danielle blinked. Then she laughed. Not loud, just a small breath of disbelief. I'm sorry, she said, even though she wasn't the one who should have been apologizing. This is priority boarding, first class, he added as if she hadn't read the signs on her way up. She held his gaze, calm, direct. Yes, I'm aware. That's what my ticket says. He looked at the screen beside him, then at her again. Right. I'm going to need a moment. Before she could respond, the man in cargo shorts stepped up beside her. Hey, is boarding open yet? The agent's whole tone shifted. Absolutely, sir. Welcome aboard. He didn't even ask for the man's ticket, just waved him through with a smile. Danielle watched as the guy walked right down the jet bridge. She glanced at the screen the agent had been looking at. Same flight, same seat row. She already knew what was happening, but part of her still didn't want to believe it. The agent looked back at her, avoiding her eyes now. Looks like there's been a seat reassignment. I'm going to have to ask you to step to the side while I sort this out. Her voice stayed low. Excuse me. That's not a reassignment. That's my seat. And that man just boarded with it. The agent gave her the kind of look you give someone who's making a scene. She wasn't raising her voice. She wasn't swearing. But somehow, her presence was suddenly the problem. Ma'am, please step aside so we can continue boarding. She did. Not because he was right, but because she knew how fast things could go left when black women refused to comply. She stood off to the side, pulled out her phone, and took a deep breath. The same breath she'd taken in a boardroom in Dallas when an investor interrupted her mid-pitch to ask if she really understood the tech behind her own software. The same breath she took at a dinner party in Boston when a partner's wife mistook her for the help. Same breath, different city. But today wasn't going to end the way those moments did. Today, she was tired, but she wasn't powerless. Is there a supervisor I can speak to? Danielle asked calmly, clutching her phone now, not just as a device, but as armor. The gate agent sighed, like she'd asked him to perform surgery. I already told you, ma'am, there's nothing I can do. I'm not asking you what you can do. I'm asking for your supervisor. A pause. Then, as if on cue, another agent emerged from behind the counter. A woman this time, maybe mid-30s, light brown hair pulled into a bun, tired eyes behind rimless glasses. Her name tag read Carrie. Carrie approached with a smile that felt empty, polite, but distant. Hi there. I understand there's a concern with your seat assignment? Danielle nodded once. There's no concern. There's a mistake. I purchased seat 2A, confirmed my boarding pass at check-in, and showed both my ID and ticket at the gate. That seat was just given to another passenger, without explanation. Carrie turned toward the monitor, started typing. Danielle caught the gate agent. Nick, his badge said, shooting her a look like he was annoyed to be corrected. Carrie scanned the screen. Her eyebrows pulled together, but her voice stayed pleasant. Yes, I see your name here, seat 2A, but it's been reassigned. Looks like there was a change in the system. Danielle's voice sharpened. Without notifying me? Carrie didn't answer right away. Danielle pressed on. Let's be real. That man walked through with 0 questions, no ID, no verification. I was standing right here. I understand your frustration, Carrie began. No, you don't. Danielle didn't raise her voice, didn't need to. You understand how not to make a scene. That's different. Carrie's fake smile faltered, her hands folded over the desk. I'm afraid there's nothing available in first class anymore. We can offer you a premium economy seat and a voucher. Danielle laughed, cold and short. A voucher? Yes, for the inconvenience. Inconvenience? Danielle tilted her head. You've just told a black woman in front of a dozen passengers that she doesn't belong where she clearly does. You handed her seat to someone else, then offered her a coupon like she's here for a grocery sale. Carrie said nothing. Nick was pretending to read the screen, clearly wishing she'd go away. The waiting area had gone silent. People were watching. Danielle felt it, not just the looks, but the judgment, the side-eye curiosity of folks who weren't sure what side to take. A man 2 rows over whispered something to his wife. Danielle saw her shake her head. She inhaled deeply, phone still in her hand, thumb hovering over her contacts. This wasn't about ego. She wasn't trying to prove anything. She didn't need the seat to feel important. But what she wasn't going to do was let this go. She turned slightly away from the counter and dialed. Danielle? Came the voice on the other end, crisp and confident. Jude, she said, I need you to check the list of contracts we have under Transatlantic Holdings. There was a pause. The airline? Jude asked. Yes, I want to know if they're still in compliance. Pull the audits and call in an emergency session with compliance leads. I want it done within the hour. A longer pause. Then, understood. Danielle hung up. Carrie looked confused. Nick looked nervous. Danielle turned back, now with a quieter kind of confidence. I'll wait here while you figure out how this is going to play out, but I'm not going anywhere. A young black woman who'd been watching from a nearby gate walked over quietly, handed Danielle a bottle of water, and gave a tiny nod before walking away. Danielle whispered a quiet, thank you, and sat down, her tote still at her feet, heels crossed at the ankle. She didn't have her seat, but now the airline didn't have her silence. But what they didn't know was who they were really dealing with. The flight took off without her. No explanation, no announcement, no follow-up from the gate crew. Danielle sat by the window in the airline lounge, watching the plane taxi toward the runway. The seat she paid for, 2A, was now halfway to California under someone else's name. She didn't cry. She didn't rant. She opened her laptop. 10 minutes later, a Zoom window opened on her screen. 3 faces appeared, her core executive team. Jude, her legal director. Ava, head of operations. Marcus, from digital systems. Danielle didn't waste time. They reassigned my seat, gave it away. No notification, no reason. I was asked twice if I belonged in line. Ava's lips tightened. Again? Again, Danielle said flatly. Jude leaned forward. Is this the same airline we flagged last quarter for internal discrepancies in employee treatment reports? Danielle nodded. Yep, Transatlantic Holdings. They own Red Summit Airlines. We started onboarding their DEI contracts 6 weeks ago. Full review is scheduled for next quarter. Want to bump it up? Marcus asked. Danielle didn't answer right away. She looked around the lounge. Clean leather chairs, complimentary fruit tray, quiet air, but her chest was tight. Like every black professional she knew, she had taught herself how to smile when insulted, how to let things go so she could keep going. Today, that didn't sit right. Yes, she said. Push the audit forward. Start the reviews tonight. She turned back to Jude. And make sure legal preps a report. I want every policy they've filed for public contracts reviewed for compliance. Jude gave a small nod. Understood. Make them answer to the same process they hired us to build, Danielle added. They wanted our name on their diversity banner. Fine. Now they get the work behind it. The meeting ended. Danielle shut her laptop and sat in silence. She thought about her mother, who worked 2 jobs just to get her through high school. Her first job out of college, where she was mistaken for an intern, twice. The time she was told by a white client, "Wow, you're so articulate." She had learned how to smile through it all, let the comments roll off. Don't be too loud. Don't be too angry. Keep your tone calm. Keep your voice soft. But inside her, that wasn't calm. That was containment. She pulled out her phone again and sent a message to her assistant. Cancel the hotel, reschedule the meeting to Zoom. This just became more important. Somewhere across the terminal, a pilot walked past in uniform, nodding politely. He didn't know who she was. Neither did the couple arguing near the gate or the old man snoring near the magazine stand. But they would. By the next day, Danielle's team had logged into the airline's back-end portal, authorized access through a compliance partnership she had signed just weeks earlier. They flagged 19 instances of complaints related to discriminatory behavior at boarding gates in the past 12 months. 7 had eerily similar language. Are you sure you're in the right line? Jude drafted the memo. Ava assembled the documentation. By morning, a certified package was sent to Transatlantic's Executive Compliance Board. Danielle didn't add a letter. She didn't have to. The data spoke louder than anything she could say. But silence? That would have been their win. By the next afternoon, 3 phones were ringing in 3 different corners of Dallas, Phoenix, and Seattle. Offices that all belonged to executives at Transatlantic Holdings. The subject line in the email that triggered it all was simple. Preliminary audit findings, immediate review required. Inside, a tidy summary of every flagged incident tied to discriminatory behavior at boarding gates over the past year. Attachments included time-stamped footage, HR reports that had gone conveniently unresolved, and employee statements that had been previously ignored. Danielle didn't include emotion. She didn't need it. The numbers made people nervous, especially investors. Back at CVQ headquarters in Oakland, Danielle sat with her sleeves rolled up in the conference room she designed herself. Clean lines, high glass, no frills. She preferred it that way. There was work to be done. Ava walked in with her iPad, eyes wide. They responded. Danielle didn't look up. Who? Transatlantic. Their COO just called, wants to set up an urgent call. Danielle leaned back, folding her arms. Of course he does. She took a breath. Schedule it for tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific. No sooner. Ava smiled. You sure? Oh, I'm very sure. She wasn't being petty. She was being deliberate. She had been told to wait politely her whole life. Now they could wait for her. By that evening, media consultants inside the airline were already holding closed-door sessions to prep statements, just in case this went public. Legal teams debated whether they could call it a misunderstanding without admitting liability. One PR rep suggested offering Danielle a formal apology and a future flight credit. Someone in the room actually said, she probably just wants to feel heard. Wrong. Danielle didn't want a coupon or a discount. She wanted consequences. While they scrambled, her firm kept working. Not because it was personal, but because this was exactly what CivEQ was built to do. And to be clear, CivEQ wasn't some feel-good startup running workshops about how to be kind. Danielle built it from the ground up as a data-driven audit firm, the kind that Fortune 500 companies paid serious money to review their internal structure, expose flaws, and make them fix it. Or else. And now they were the ones under review. Jude walked into the office late, coat draped over one arm, his glasses slightly fogged. We found something else. Danielle sat up. What is it? An internal memo. One of their district managers flagged gate agents at MSP last fall for inconsistent ID checks. Said it may appear discriminatory depending on the passenger. And they didn't act on it? Jude shook his head. Just buried it. Said they'd provide additional training as needed. Nothing ever happened. Danielle didn't curse. She rarely did, but this time her jaw locked. This is systemic, not an accident. They've been warned. Exactly, Jude said, which means they can't hide behind the idea of a bad apple. She looked down at her phone. A text from her brother had just come in. Saw Twitter. This is blowing up. You good? She smiled briefly and typed back, always. Word was getting out. Not because she called TMZ, not because she wanted attention, but because someone at the gate had recorded it and shared it online, with no tags, no edits. Just raw footage of a black woman being told, you don't belong, over and over again, with different words. It hit a nerve, not because it was shocking, but because it was familiar. But this time, it didn't end with a shrug and a sigh. This time, someone pushed back. By Friday morning, Transatlantic Holdings was trending on every major social platform. Not in the way brands want. The hashtag seat for Danielle had gone viral, but it wasn't just about her anymore. Thousands of people started sharing their own stories about missed flights, awkward questions, random searches, and the slow, humiliating process of proving they belonged. It wasn't outrage that filled the comments. It was recognition. People saw themselves in Danielle's story, the quiet disrespect, the coded language, the small slights that left lasting cuts. The airline issued a statement that afternoon. We are aware of the incident involving Ms. Danielle Sharp and are currently reviewing all policies and procedures related to passenger service and gate operations. We sincerely apologize for the inconvenience and distress caused. Inconvenience, again. Danielle stared at her screen, lips pressed together. Across the office, Ava spoke up. They're still not using the word. Danielle didn't look away from the screen. Which one? You know which one. She did. Discrimination. They wouldn't say it. Couldn't. Because once they admitted it, everything changed. It wouldn't just be a bad day at the gate. It would be a civil liability, a legal storm they couldn't afford. But whether they said it or not, the proof was sitting in their inbox, in the documents her team sent, in the quiet endorsements from other executives who privately admitted, yeah, we've seen this before. The board of directors called an emergency meeting. 3 days ago, Danielle was just another first-class passenger with a boarding pass. Now, she was the reason the airline's internal culture had become a national conversation. That afternoon, 2 high-ranking executives were placed on indefinite leave. Carrie, the supervisor at the gate, was reassigned. And Nick, no one knew. He vanished from the company site by Monday. Still, Danielle didn't gloat. This wasn't about revenge. She didn't want them ruined. She wanted them to remember what it felt like to be seen for something more than who they expected you to be. CivEQ released a short, clear statement. Every system will protect what it was designed to serve until someone holds it accountable. We thank our partners who choose transparency over comfort. That was all. No press tour, no podcast interviews. Danielle turned down every single request. Instead, she called a staff meeting. Everyone at CivEQ gathered in the common room. Junior analysts, interns, data engineers, office staff. No titles, just people. Danielle stood in front of them. No mic, no slideshow, just her voice. This wasn't about a seat, she said. It never was. She paused. This was about the look on that agent's face when he decided, without even realizing it, that I didn't belong. And the thing is, I'm not special. This happens every day to people with no lawyers, no LinkedIn followers, no platforms, and most of them, they just walk away. Because it's exhausting to always have to prove yourself in a space that acts like you're lucky to be there. She let the silence hang for a moment. We don't fix this overnight, but we can fix it. One policy at a time, one boardroom at a time, one story at a time. Then she smiled, a small one. So get some rest. Monday, we work. The room applauded, but not because she told them to. They felt it. They understood what it meant to be part of something that actually had weight behind it. Back at the airport, no new training programs had started yet. No banners had changed, but something had shifted. Because now, when a gate agent paused before questioning a passenger, really paused, it was because they remembered what could happen next. And that was a start. But Danielle wasn't finished yet, not even close. Monday morning came quietly. The sun hadn't fully risen over Oakland, but Danielle was already in the office. Coffee in hand, hair pulled back, dressed in black slacks and a plain white blouse, no designer label, no statement piece, just clean and focused. She was staring at the whiteboard in the glass conference room. On it, scribbled in blue marker, were 2 words circled in thick ink. Expect better. Jude stepped in, carrying a folder. It's done. Their compliance team signed the review agreement. Mandatory DEI audit. Full access. External observers. First round begins Thursday. Danielle nodded slowly, but her eyes didn't move from the board. A few seconds passed. Then she turned to him. Funny thing about all this? Jude raised an eyebrow. I didn't plan for any of it. I just wanted to get on a flight, pitch some clean energy data, and come home. He gave a small laugh. And instead, you dragged a billion-dollar company into a reckoning. She smirked. Wasn't the plan. But it was the point, he added. She didn't say anything, just looked back at the board again. The rest of the team trickled in. Some were still tired from the weekend. Others were buzzing with energy from the news. But everyone knew this wasn't just another Monday. This was a shift, a change in the wind. Ava handed Danielle a folder with reports from smaller regional airlines, ones they'd never audited before. We've got interest. A few companies want to get ahead of the headlines. Danielle flipped through the pages, then closed the folder. We'll help them, but they don't get to skip the work. She looked around the room. I want us to stop accepting performative nonsense, she said. I want us to stop clapping for companies just because they posted a black square or wrote a generic "we value diversity" tweet. Heads nodded. I want numbers. I want structure. I want action, not apologies. One of the junior analysts, Terrence, fresh out of college, nervous to speak, raised his hand halfway. Can I ask something? Danielle turned to him. Always. He cleared his throat. Were you scared? I mean, in that moment? At the gate? She didn't answer right away. I wasn't scared, she said. I was tired. Tired of walking into rooms and having to prove my existence is legitimate before I even open my mouth. Terrence nodded. I feel that. Danielle's eyes softened. We all do. A beat of silence passed. Then she added, and that's why we don't let this die in a tweet. That's why we build something that outlasts all of us. Later that evening, after everyone had left, Danielle sat alone in her office. The city lights glowed through the window behind her. Planes crisscrossed the night sky far off in the distance. Her phone buzzed, a message from her mother. Proud of you, always. She smiled. For a long time, she had tried to make her work quiet, effective, but invisible. No headlines, no drama. Let the systems change behind the scenes. But now she understood that sometimes the only way people listen is when you make them uncomfortable, when you take the calm mask off and show them that you're not going to shrink just because they don't see you. She thought back to the gate agent's face, the smugness, the assumption, the dismissiveness, and she thought about the woman who handed her that bottle of water, quiet support, no words, just a silent kind of solidarity. Not all heroes wear capes. Some just stay seated right where they paid to be. Danielle leaned back in her chair, letting her thoughts settle. Then she picked up her pen, and on a fresh page of her notebook, she wrote, The system won't fix itself, but neither will I back down. That was the real message. Not revenge, not noise, but dignity, earned and defended. We all carry stories like Danielle's, some louder than others, some invisible to the world. But silence won't save us. If you've been overlooked, disrespected, or told you didn't belong, know this. You do. And you don't have to wait for permission to stand up for it. Speak up. Document everything. Build with purpose. And when the time comes, hold the door open for the next person who looks like you. Because respect isn't given freely. It's demanded. It's fought for. And when necessary, it's reclaimed.